Okay, we're on.
All righty.
Uh, Come on in. We got the game on. This is Hegemonix. I am Misha. This is my colleague and co-host, George Michaelopoulos. And we're here to talk at you for a while about current events. But current events have gotten very strange that
I'll say.
kind of I had to put out a timeline in order to understand them better.
I hear
Um,
you.
but right now we've got the thing we're going to dance around for the most part is the summit and the lead up to the summit
Hmm.
between President Trump and President Putin. And it didn't come totally out of the blue because I think it was back in February after their first phone call. They talked about
Hmm.
having a meeting between the two of them. They just
Yeah.
didn't specify when. That it would, need to have something prepared in order. Their idea of it, and really rational idea of it, is you have something and all it needs is a signature, and then it's a photo op and the leader sign it, and that's it. Because people don't, uh, you're not going to have Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin on a table with two interpreters deciding all this stuff
Yeah.
before,
Yeah.
before it gets to that level. Everything's already been decided. They're not going to, let us reason together.
It's
No,
usually
that's
the
not.
way it works, isn't it? It's usually the way it works.
Yeah, it's eventually. I mean, they'll, Putin's going to ask one of his aides, "Do we have a deal?" And Trump's going to ask one of his aides, "Do we have a deal?" Hopefully, they're honest, and maybe they'll come together for some good reason. But I don't
Right.
know whether they are or not, because this thing came up so quickly, and I think the reason it came up so quickly, there's several things pointing to it. One of them, and I'm going to put up some maps here
Yeah.
to show. But what's happening is that in Ukraine, in Pokrovsk, the cauldron is forming. Uh,
Yes.
in Russian, that's called a kotyol. It's the old way of doing things. It goes back to the Mongols. The Russian army has modified it so that what the Mongols would do, they would surround it, give them an ultimatum for everybody to surrender, and whoever surrendered surrendered. Whoever held out was killed, and they just closed
Yeah.
the circle. Uh, the Russians now they form something like this, and they, which you can see on the maps that I'm going to be that I'm putting up here.
Hmm.
Um, they form on three sides something that's a barrier, and then they concentrate all of their artillery on that fourth side, and they just
Yeah.
dare people to try to escape the cauldron, and it gets you to the same place because it totally demoralizes the enemy that um, they're surrounded and their only way out is a killing field. And so at some point they're probably going to surrender. Um, that's the idea behind it, and it happened before, if you recall, during the war in Debaltseve, back in I think it was 2015. It's what led to the Minsk II Accords,
Hmm.
and they had Debaltseve. They had a good part of the Ukrainian army in a cauldron in Debaltseve, and that's when Merkel and some of the others went to Vladimir Putin and said, "We got to stop this. It's going to be a massacre, or it's going to be a big rout that's going to be embarrassing." And so they got him to sign Minsk II, which they never enforced. Ukraine never abided by.
Right.
So, um, but that's kind of the type of thing. Now it's not just Pokrovsk. It's Konstantinovka and several others. I think maybe four others.
Yeah.
Uh, that are facing the same situation right now. And it's an entire line, and I'll show this on the map that I put up as well.
Hmm.
It's an entire line along the Donbass front that is the last order of fortifications, the last line of fortifications for that area. That, I mean, if you can imagine, the Ukrainians wanted to build up layers of fortifications from the east going west, so that anybody coming in from the east is going to have to cross over this and this and this and this
Right.
and that. This is the last line, and after this, there's a lot of open field running
Mm-hmm.
involved, but it's hard to. I mean, if you put a army together, their target, it's a lot easier if there's fortifications that they can, hide behind and shoot from and whatever. Now I don't want to get too deep into the weeds of it because I'm not a military guy and I don't do that. But so that was part of it. The other part is that his ultimatum, you recall, I think July the 4th, he gave a 50-day ultimatum. And then the 25th, it was 10 to 12 days that he shortened it down to, which is classic Trump. If the art of the deal is to get him in negotiations and then turn up the heat.
Right.
Which didn't. I mean, it seems like it would be hot, should be hot from Trump's perspective, but not from the Russian perspective. They just kept going. And then that should have ended right about now. And that's why I think we're seeing what we're seeing as far as the summit is concerned. But I've talked a lot. Your thoughts on this?
No. My gut is telling me that Putin is not Trump's audience. His audience is the American establishment, the American deep state. And he's saying blustery things. He's saying violent things. He's saying, things like ultimata and stuff like that, because he's walking a fine line. His base, MAGA, says, just get the hell out. Come on, drop it. Get out of Israel, get out of Palestine, get out of, so far we're sticking with him, although much disappointment as far as the 12-day war and stuff like this. But he's hoping that his base will stay with him while he plays to the neocons, the establishment. And at the end of the day, he can say, hey, I tried. Wash my hands. They failed. I mean, you don't want the Russians there, but you and what army are going to drive them out? And I keep hearing things like, well, it's just not Putin and Trump that have to agree, but Zelensky and the Europeans. And I'm thinking, I don't think the Europeans have got any skin in the game. Their economy's in the dumpster. They're close to civil war in several countries. They have no munitions. They've given whatever they had to the Ukraine. I mean, I could go on and on. I know that the Germans could mobilize an army because maybe they're reflexive, and the Baltic states. But if you think that the Italians, the Spaniards, the Greeks, the French, or even the British are going to field, a Napoleonic army of 650,000 men to go march on Moscow, I've got a bridge to sell you in Brooklyn. I mean, it doesn't matter what. At the end of the day, what I'm trying to say is it doesn't matter what the Europeans want, one way or the other. And so Trump sees this, in my mind, he sees this, and he knows he can walk away. And let's be honest, it's not like we've never walked away with our tail between our legs before. We did it in Kabul 4 years ago, and we did it in Saigon, 40 years ago? I remember that. Boy, that rocked my world.
50 years
I was
ago.
a 15-year-old then. It was just, wow. I mean, so.
The 75,
anyway.
yeah. Well, they cut off the yeah. Yeah, no, I agree with just about every word you said. Well, with every word you said, because that's kind of where we find ourselves, that Europe really doesn't have, I mean, to the extent that they've been playing ball in this whole thing, they've given up some weapons, some few weapons from their stores, but most of their contribution has been to shoot themselves in the foot, and cause themselves to sink into a deindustrializing recession or depression or whatever you want to call it,
Yeah.
especially in Germany.
Yeah.
And what happened really, as part of the dynamics that caused this whole thing to happen, is when Trump gave his ultimatum on secondary sanctions, and that was to put considerable tariffs. It wasn't sanctions, more like tariffs, but it's the same thing, really, when you
Yeah.
get down um, on China and India.
Yeah.
Now, the Chinese response was, "Didn't this just happen a few weeks ago?
Yeah.
Are you really want to go down this road again?"
Yeah.
And he was like, "No, no, we're really not." And the Indians are like, "We get most of our oil
Yeah.
from Russia."
Yeah. And they turn around and
And we
sell it
see
at a
what happened to
premium.
the Germans. We see what happened to the
Yeah.
Germans.
Yeah. Well, and
We ain't going down that road.
and they turn around and sell it at a premium to other countries. Now, of course, they keep a lot for
Yeah, yeah.
themselves,
We're making book
but,
off of it, thanks to you
they're
all.
not
But
stupid.
yeah,
Yeah.
no, no. And they're way over there. And that's just one thing that Americans
Yeah.
need to learn, that, the proximity does make a difference in things like
Oh, sure.
this.
Sure.
Um, and so, he did his full deadline thing, and then the cauldrons formed in early August up till now. And then something else happened. Maybe. We don't know for sure. It might have happened. But there's a naval base, and it's closer. It's on the south coast going towards Odessa, called Achakov.
Mhm.
And evidently Russian, I believe the reports, but they're being denied across the board through
Mhm.
UK, Europe. There's a blackout on it in the United States, except for alternative media.
Mhm.
But finally, the UK, the British government came around and said, "Oh no, well, actually, they're not on duty; they're tourists."
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it is two colonels in the UK military and one other person that they say very little about,
Mhm.
who's probably with UK intelligence services.
Oh, yeah. I saw their photograph on Martyanov's Reminiscence of the Future.
Yeah,
And he's got their names, Lieutenant Colonel something something and Colonel something something, and
yeah,
and and they're dressed in fatigues and in battle dress, and they're looking very sheepish, standing or sitting by each other with Russian soldiers behind them. And but he is not saying who the intel agent that they caught was. So it's
right.
probably somebody, yeah, somebody significant. I would imagine so.
Yeah. Now I can see, now there are people who have been saying that it was all fake, and I can see the photograph. I think is from the Swedes or the Danes who broke the story
Hmm.
in their media. And it is AI enhanced as far as I can tell. It looks like it's been AI
Hmm.
something or other to it. But I take that as being kind of like the way that New York Times would do sketches, that they kind of
Hmm.
idealize the thing and
Sure.
put it up there. I don't think it's because I don't think it has anything to do with whether those people are real or not, or whether the Russians captured them or not. I tend to believe it,
I do too.
but and and the Russians' response to the UK saying they were just tourists is, "Well, we didn't find any blankets, but we found lots of maps." um, and so Witkoff went to meet Putin on the 6th,
Hmm.
and immediately they started talking about a summit, and that threw everybody, myself included, off a little. And then they said Alaska, and that threw a lot of people off even more.
Threw me off.
Yeah, through on the 8th, and I tend to see that as confirmation that Putin's really in charge of this thing,
Hmm.
because obviously you want some place where he doesn't have to worry about the ICC and all that.
Hmm.
I don't think anybody would dare try to arrest him anyway, but you just don't want the embarrassment and the photo op of somebody that tried to do it or something,
Hmm.
some idiot. Um, but it's close to, it reminds everybody that the United States and Russia are very close.
Yeah,
physical
yeah.
proximity.
Going back to February when they had their first 3-hour chit chat, and I've had that. I think they've had 5 since then.
Mhm.
Witkoff has gone 2 times, maybe 3 times.
Yeah,
And then, of course, in April, was it in April that J.D. Vance and Trump humiliated Zelensky in the Oval Office
yeah,
in public? I mean, you don't have to be a weatherman to know which way the wind is blowing, as Bob
mm,
Dylan said, or whatever.
yeah,
And one thing Trump knows, and this is why I'm not black pilled, but I know that there are many in the MAGA movement who are, is because Trump knows that historically speaking, whenever an American president gets involved in a major war, it almost never turns out well for him personally, even if the United States wins, like World War II. Okay, it
yeah,
it it, it usually destroys his presidency.
mm,
Usually.
yeah,
And I'm trying to think of a time in which it didn't. Um, and I can say the war between the states. Uh, Lincoln got assassinated in his second term, so we don't know how
mhm,
that would have played out. But you look at anybody, James Madison, Woodrow Wilson,
mhm,
um, Harry Truman with Korea, LBJ with Vietnam. I mean, you just go down the line, and I think Trump knows this instinctively, and
mhm,
and he doesn't want to see that happen to him. And that's one reason why a lot of us were up in arms last month or 6 weeks ago during the Iran thing, when it's now clear that we were in negotiations with Iran and Netanyahu pulled the rug out from everybody and mounted an aggressive attack on Iran, scuttled the entire process, and as in so many other times in the past when it comes to Israel, tries to drag us into it. Okay. And, you know, yeah, George W. Bush is the other one. Iraq destroyed him.
mhm.
Um, so, s- we've kind of gotten over that because it seems like Trump got, you know, he separated as we said, the Iranians from the Israelis, and did did Netanyahu a solid by doing so, because I think Iran would have probably destroyed Israel or gotten really close to
Yeah,
damaging it very much more than they did. Anyway, so that's just a long way of for me to say that I think Trump knows at the end of the day he doesn't want a war with Russia. He doesn't want this thing with Ukraine to go forward anymore. If he could get a peace agreement, that'd be great. But if it peters out, so be it. As long as our boots are on the ground.
yeah, yeah, I can see that.
What do you
He
think?
has never indicated. I think he has a deep conviction that, he'd rather do business than war, and he wishes the rest of
Yeah.
humanity would rather do business than war. Um,
Yeah. He
and
wants a
that's
Trump Tower in Kiev, and he wants a Trump Tower in St. Petersburg, and a Trump Tower in
yeah,
Moscow. I
yeah,
mean, yeah, I mean, it's what he wants.
exactly. Yeah. He just wants to do business every place as much as he can, and he's looking at his son and looking at the future now a little bit.
Mhm.
I
Oh
don't
yeah.
he's not as hard and, well, he is as narcissistic as people think, but he's not as hard as people think.
Hmm.
I think part of this has to do with, the legacy as far as his son, the world that he's passing on to his son.
Hmm.
Uh, I think that actually does matter to him.
Hmm.
So we got this thing coming up in Alaska, August the 15th. Meeting Zelensky beforehand is not a requirement. And the next meeting after this between the two is supposed to be in Russia, which is going to
Yeah.
be a hoot. looking
Oh
forward to
yeah,
that. I mean, that's going to be.
yeah. I
I'm curious as to what the American press and the American politicians are going to say about that. It'd be like Nixon going to China,
oh
that kind
yeah.
of thing.
Now,
Um,
I'll be honest with you. I can see the American neocons, or the British especially, MI6, doing some false flag to just scuttle it. Sink an American ship, and say the Russians did it, or something like that. Because then they'll say, "See, Trump's a puppet. No, he's a Putin
yeah,
puppet," and and it'll be whatever it takes to. Well, I mean, I go back to the 12-day war. That wasn't a false flag. Um, Netanyahu instigated that war, that bombing campaign against Iran, to scuttle the American and Iranian negotiations.
right.
So we can always count on our friends, the Israelis, to do something, or the neocons.
Yeah, I'm
Hopefully,
I'm actually encouraged that from what I'm seeing on some social media about what I'll be careful what I'm saying. The anti-Zionist sentiment that's coming to the fore
oh yeah,
right now, because it's just um, you can't lie your way out of it. You can't
right,
wallpaper over it. There's just too much right now
yeah.
that's making them look really bad. Um, but I'm curious as to what you think might come out of the summit, if anything, because I don't think that there's a deal already on paper someplace that they've already agreed to. At least as far as I can tell from Mushakov, from what he said.
Zhirov.
Yeah, I don't think what he said indicates that there's a deal on paper yet, but I think probably what they said was, we're more than willing to consider letting you keep everything that you have taken, except I think there's some territory in Sumy and Kharkov around there that is not part of the four oblasts and not Crimea, that might end up going back to Ukraine if there were a deal to come through. And
Uh,
then the four oblasts and Crimea would go to Russia. But to me, first of all, I don't think it's going to happen. That's the first thing.
mhm,
I think Trump was open to it, but this is really his way of getting around that 50-day ultimatum, and his
mhm,
way of putting to bed the whole thing of those secondary tariffs and trying to, beat off the neocons with a stick.
yeah.
That's what I think this whole thing really is actually at the bottom.
Mhm.
But that would be the deal. But the thing to me would be, who's in charge in Kiev? That's
We are.
really what matters,
I
as
think we
in
are.
addition to the territory. You want the territory, obviously.
Uh-huh.
Wherever Russian boots go, that is Russia. That's what he
Mhm.
said, like, not a week or two ago. What Putin
Mhm.
said. But also, it matters what happens tomorrow and the next day and the next day, when they want to rearm and rerun this show again.
Mhm.
And if somebody else is in charge in Kiev, that make it harder and impossible if they have the support of Moscow.
Mhm.
What are your
Well,
thoughts on that?
um, along those
Oh,
lines, I'm seeing pretty articles about Valery Zaluzhny in Vogue and in um, other journals.
mhm.
Photographs of him in a suit, tender stories about his childhood. It looks like we're getting. It looks like that's the guy who's going to replace Zelensky, and we've already made up our mind about that.
Hmm.
And I've thought about that for a long time. I mean, of course, Zelensky fired him and moved him over to ambassador to Great Britain, which, of course, Britain is where the city of London is located, and the House of Rothschild and all that. So
Yeah.
now, interestingly enough, Zelensky is from what I understand, he really is a Banderite.
Hmm.
Zelensky never was.
Hmm.
Zelensky's first language is Russian. Okay.
Mhm.
And he ran as a peace candidate. He and he got 73% of the vote. Okay. But Zelensky is the real thing, and I think it's only a matter of time before there is a coup against Zelensky, which we will orchestrate.
Hmm.
So to answer your question, who's in charge? I think it's us. It just depends which wing of us is it. Is it the neocons or is it the pragmatists? I don't know. That's
Yeah.
my take.
Yeah. I think in the end, at the end of all this, at the summit, probably it's going to become apparent if it has isn't already apparent that it's not the problem. The problem is not the Europeans. The problem is the Ukrainians, the Kiev
Yeah.
regime, and whoever might replace the Kiev regime.
Hmm.
Is that you're talking about Zelensky and being a Bandrai.
Hmm.
And I don't know that there's a political support in the United States for Trump to be able to remove all those people or to just overtly betray them to Russia, um, and to sign over all this land, to say there's going to be elections, free and fair elections, administered by somebody acceptable to the Russians, probably not the
Hmm.
OSCE. Um, and I, I think it's probably just to get him out of this little corner that he's painting himself into, and he'll do what you were talking about earlier. He'll say, I just can't deal with these people. They're just going to have to settle their own thing.
Hmm.
Now, one thing I did hear was that the military armaments that were tasked towards going to Ukraine already have now been retasked towards going back into the American arsenal. Um, so I
There's a
don't know
reason
whether.
for that. There's a
Huh?
reason for that because I'm hearing word on the street is we may have to go after the cartels in Mexico.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah. I've heard about that too. It's got to be somebody. We got to
Yeah.
start up with somebody.
Yeah.
It's just
Uh,
it's human nature.
I
Uh,
mean, I don't want a war, but it would be more in our interest to do something about the failed state to the south of our border than it is about a failed state 6,000 miles away, which has
yeah,
absolutely nothing to do with us. And, the fentanyl is not coming in from the Ukraine or Russia, you know,
right.
it's coming in from China through Mexico.
Yeah,
And when you talk about 100,000 Americans a year dying from fentanyl overdoses, so, you know,
yeah. Really, I didn't mean to necessarily make light of the fact. It's just that U.S. is usually at war. I mean,
yeah, we
that's
are.
just a flat out statement, through our history.
Yeah,
But
we kind
this
of
would
have
be as
been.
close to a righteous war if it's directed against the cartels.
Yeah, it is
Now, the
exactly.
corruption is going to crawl its way into whatever goes on with warfare. That's just the nature of the beast.
Yeah,
But the cartels, they're really nasty people,
yeah.
really super nasty
Oh
people.
yeah,
And it wouldn't be the word. And redirecting military, United States military, towards the Western Hemisphere, towards the Americas. Even I even got a kick out of the Greenland thing and
yeah,
the stuff about Panama and
yeah,
all that. It'd be nice instead of talking about 18-year-old Americans dying in the Balkans or in
mhm,
Ukraine or in the Middle East. Um, Not that it's good that 18-year-olds die anyplace, but there's not really anybody here that can stand up to us. And so basically, it's just a question of going there and putting on a
right,
show or something. And uh,
right. I mean, let's annex parts of Canada too. I got no
oh
problem
yeah,
with that. I
I'm
mean,
not,
it seems like they've the ones in the West, Alberta, Saskatchewan, have really had it up to here with Ottawa. You know,
yeah,
I get that, and in Greenland, only 60,000 people there. I grant you, but I think the majority want to be part of America. Fine. You know,
yeah,
I mean, what we're seeing, and I've got to really hand it to Gail about this, is a multipolarity actually happening. We're
Mm,
seeing it birthed. We're
mm,
seeing Russia take over Europe in the same way that we kind of dominate the Western Hemisphere.
mhm,
China dominating the, you know, Indo-Pacific,
mhm.
and us dominating the Western Hemisphere, which which I just said, and that's your multipolarity right there.
Mhm.
And it seems like a lot of the things that Trump is doing by threatening India and threatening Brazil is only making these these regional blocks become even tighter and stronger. Uh,
Yeah.
you see, now now a lot of us are saying, "Oh well, it's he's being foolish. We're not going to be victorious." Victory's not what it's about. War is not what this is about. What this is about is m- a multipolar world.
Mm.
That's just the way I see it. And if that's what you have at the end of the day, then so be it, you know?
Yeah, the pieces seem to be falling into place, regardless of what anybody's intentions are.
Yeah,
It just seems to be moving in that direction
yeah,
because of the concentration in power. I mean, as much as anything else,
yeah,
Russia's got lots of nukes and a huge army, and China's got a few nukes and considerable army.
yeah,
And we've got what we've got. But if you look at Europe, you measure their armies in the tens of thousands, not
yeah.
really anything much more.
Yeah, you could fit the entire British Army in Wembley Stadium, or no, oh, I'm sorry, Manchester, where Manchester U plays, in 80, 88,000 seats, basically, and that's the entire British Army. But 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 what I see as far as Europe is concerned, I don't mean to go off on this tangent, is I do see civil war going on there. First in Britain, but uh, but then probably in France too.
There is his name's Bentz, I think. Is it Daniel Bentz or David Bentz? He's a professor um, in England. I think it might be Oxford or Cambridge, but he's not an American. He's Canadian,
Hmm.
and he's made a splash some on the internet on YouTube. And what he's saying, he's studied war. I mean, he's
Hmm.
professor of war. He's studied it, conflicts in every
Hmm.
place by every measurement that you can. And what he's saying is we're going to have a civil war in,
Hmm.
in, in Europe. And the probability is like, it's 5% any given year, but it's 5% in 7 different countries.
Hmm.
And,
Yeah,
and it's going to start. And when you have that year over year, over time, the percentages, the chance of it happening is a preponderance,
yeah.
more
Well,
than likely.
our first Civil War was the War for Independence. It was a civil war between American patriots and American loyalists.
Right.
With nobody was more than 30% of the population, not on either side. Really, about maybe 5% were the patriots, and
Yeah.
but conditions just escalated to the point where things became intolerable. At,
Yeah.
at least for those who lived on the East Coast. Now, if you lived in Kentucky, uh, in the Ohio Valley, things were intolerable for you simply because the British were arming the Indians to go out and massacre the Americans. Okay.
Yeah.
Um, basically, there are just several conditions that have to happen before a nation erupts into a civil war. And we're seeing those conditions in many European countries,
Yeah.
and
England, especially with
England especially, yeah.
Starmer and the arresting people for
Mhm.
saying things online,
Yeah,
and the others are doing the same thing as well.
yeah.
And the whole importing, replacing the indigenous population with
Oh, yeah,
people from North Africa and the Middle East.
yeah,
Uh, there are people actually in power over there who believe that this is a good thing. I guess it's the WEF people
yeah,
who believe this is a good thing,
yeah,
and they don't. It's Marie Antoinette syndrome. They just don't see
yeah.
the incredible danger and the the ferocity of the emotions that are created from all the stuff that's happening
Exactly.
with the
Exactly.
race and all that
You know,
stuff.
one of the things that give me hope in America, at least, is that our elite, the deep state, the establishment, um, um, are a hostile elite. They don't like the white Christian majority, the people of the South, especially, but even Midwesterners. They just don't like us. Okay,
Mhm.
um, it's the same thing over in England. Only they're the hostile elite, hate their indigenous population more than ours hate us. And
Mm.
the reason I feel that that is the case is because we're the most heavily armed nation on earth as far as a population. And that is something it's a wild card that the people at the very top are not willing to want to see come out and be thrown on the table because it could blow up in their faces.
Yeah,
I just see that. It's not like I'm not a Pollyanna, but and we did put Trump back in office, which was historically unprecedented, except for one other time,
mhm,
and we returned it with a bare majority in the House, a significantly more majority in the Senate. The Supreme Court is 6-3 on most things,
mhm.
and Trump's been batting 1,000 at the Supreme Court,
Yeah,
and
lately he's had a lot of decisions. Yeah.
the states are coalescing. There are more red states than blue states,
Mhm,
and the red state governors have found their as we Greeks say archidia or cojones, and they're actually there's a lot of mini Trumps out there
mm.
in in the red states, and that is a safety valve which I think will prevent a civil war in the United States. Um, but I could be wrong. I mean, you know,
Well, it'd be very difficult to have the Civil War in the United States. It would have to be rural versus urban.
yeah,
But I saw a thing on, I think it was YouTube or one of the might have been on X, where it talked about all the different per capita gun ownership
hmm
of all these different states. And some of them are surprising and everything, but the last one, obviously, the heaviest ones besides us are like 31 to 100 of the people or 40 to 100. And ours, the thing goes all the way up. It's like 120 for every 100 people.
yeah,
That's the ownership right
yeah,
there. More guns than people.
yeah.
Um,
More guns than
and
people, exactly.
and people will just nobody, and it's even folklore, the Beverly Hillbillies and all the jokes about country
Uh-huh.
being violent. There's a grain of truth to
Yeah, there
that.
is.
I
There
mean, if
is.
people, it, strange things, people out in the country don't like strange things,
Right.
and a lot of people didn't like this whole thing with COVID and just refused to
Oh
participate.
yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah.
So I'm wondering what's going to happen in Britain and these other states that do have gun control, how their people are going to. I guess it's going to be the military turns against the government, or the police turn against the government, or
Well,
gun owners
you
do it,
know,
or they just take weapons and
you know,
or make weapons. And
there are millions of Ukrainians in Poland, and probably they're seeping out into Western countries as well, like Germany. They will probably form a militia for the natives, and and help them fight the Middle Easterners and the Africans. And let's not forget all
yeah,
all all those munitions that we've been sending over to to the Ukraine. A lot of them are on the black market. I mean,
yeah,
I'll never forget during the time of troubles, the in the 70s, with the Irish Republican Army, And let's be honest, it was Irish terrorism. Okay, it is what it is.
Mhm.
And I'll never forget Irish Catholics in America, of whom there are millions, would cut a check for $10 or $50 and send it to the IRA, and along with a note that says, "Now don't spend this money on bandages." You know, in you know,
Mm.
in other words, bombs and bullets.
Yeah.
And that probably will happen for the indigenous English population. They'll find a way to get munitions, and of course, this is not something I'm preaching. I'm just
Right.
predicting. Okay, I don't want war. I don't want civil war. But I'm
Right.
saying this is how these things happen too.
Yeah. That's just the way it looks.
Yeah,
When you have people that are that disaffected
yeah,
from what I'm seeing,
yeah,
they something's going to give.
yeah,
And with a government that is so has such a tin ear, can't
yeah.
hear what's going on.
Hmm.
Because they had like several 100,000 people sign a petition for an immediate election in uh, in the UK
Hmm.
just recently in the last few days. Um, I don't know. Yeah, it could be. It we're right at the height of summer, so people generally don't like to do these things when it's snowing, but
Yeah.
they
Well,
better get on with it.
you
But
know,
I'm not encouraging it.
you're saying 10 year, and I agree with you. But that 10 year is there because of decades of indoctrination at elite universities, along with a lot of propaganda saying, "Oh, you're a Christian nationalist, that means you're a Klansman, or you're a racist, or you're a homophobe, and you're an anti-Semite." And people can only take something so vituperative only for so long, especially when it's not true.
Right.
The American corporate workplace is kind of like a Stalinist uh, gulag, thanks to the HR woman. It's usually a woman who just can make your life absolutely miserable. And you're sitting here and worrying that you're going to get called on the carpet. You're going to lose your job. Your wife is going to leave you. And the mortgage is going to be gone. Okay.
Hmm.
Um, w- Once you go a day without eating, or 9 meals in a week, with missing 9 meals in a week, and this is a broad population. This is according to Scott Ritter. He studied this. Then you're going to have a revolution. It just is going to happen, whether it's a
Yeah.
civil war or not. Don't know, because then you've got nothing left to lose. And
Yeah.
and that's where England is. That's where the indigenous minority, the indigenous majority is. I said white. They're white. Yeah,
Hmm.
the indigenous Anglo-Saxons. Okay.
Hmm.
And the British establishment did their best for the last 20 years to cover up immigrant crime, especially the Pakistani rape gangs in Rotherham. And last year, that Welsh youth stabbed
Oh,
three
yeah.
girls who were at a dance camp, and wounded several others. And of course, he was Welsh. Well, he
Hmm.
wasn't Welsh. He was from Rwanda. Okay.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
something snapped in his mind that told him, I think he was 17, well, I got to stab these three little white girls in the heart, or something like that. Well, what's up with that? I mean, you see, so eventually it's not going to end well. And and again, this brings me back to Trump and Russia, because he's looking at these things. At least there are some smart people in the Pentagon, I think, I hope, who are saying we can't fight against Russia in their own front yard. We just
Yeah.
can't do it. And on top of that, we don't know where our allies in Europe are going to stand at any one particular time. I mean, even lily white countries like Norway and Sweden have problems with their immigrants. Okay, so and of course the huge Islamic population in France. Uh,
Yeah.
you
Oh,
know,
yeah, it's like what, 12, 15% or something like
something
that.
like that. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, they're not going to suit up and go fight for La Belle France. You
Yeah, I
know.
mean, I agree, you're right. In fact, if you look at Western society, everything about this society is geared towards, um, like a what is it Putin called it? Vampire's ball, or this parasitical class that's sucking the life out of the lower middle classes and redistributing wealth not only to themselves, but sending it to military contractors who are
Yes.
sending it overseas,
Right.
um, to Ukraine and to Israel and wherever else.
Yeah.
And they get kickbacks from all of this stuff, and it's just a huge business that's going on.
Right.
And people are starting to, because of the communications, because of the media, people are starting to really wake up to it. I'm glad it took as long as it did for this to happen in a way,
Mhm.
because if this had happened when communism was still fairly strong in the world,
Mhm.
you might have seen communist revolutions in these
True.
countries.
Good point. Very good point.
Um,
Mhm.
Now it's more like, you're likely to see desire for countries to have leaders like Trump or Viktor
Mhm.
Orban or Putin or Xi
Mhm.
Jinping or whoever.
Mhm.
Um, but most people haven't really even kept up with politics because the Chinese really don't behave as communists anymore. They call themselves, the Communist Party,
Yeah.
Chinese Communist Party, but they have a huge private sector and Deng
Oh, yeah.
Xiaoping,
They're
privatized all the
they're
stuff.
crony capitalists. They're just like
Yeah,
we are, you know. So as far as I'm concerned, we may not be as bad because we still have a Securities and Exchange Commission and all these hoops that corporatists have to jump through. But there you go. I mean, it's
yeah.
yeah.
Well, we're pretty corrupt. I mean, that's one of the things that is really nice about Trump coming along over the last 10 years or so,
Hmm.
is that it pulled the rock up so you could see underneath the rock
Oh
as
yeah.
to what's really happening, at least down a few levels anyway,
Oh yeah.
how bad it's gotten here. And
Yeah,
so
and I got to give him props. He is draining the swamp little by little. A lot. He's fired several bureaucrats, closed the Department of Education.
mhm,
He's gotten rid of a lot of them by giving them buyouts.
yeah,
Fine. And of
yeah,
course, immigration has stopped. We've had 3 months of zero border crossings. There
yeah,
are mass deportations. Uh, Not as many as we need, but still, it's in the right direction. And
yeah,
culturally, I mean, he's just doing a lot of wonderful things, renaming these bases after, putting the Confederate names back in Fort Hood,
yeah,
Fort Bragg.
yeah,
He's getting men out of women's sports. English is the national language, Gulf of America. A lot of people may think, well, these are just symbolic. Well, symbolic means a lot. You and I are Orthodox,
yeah.
and
All it means, yeah,
we understand symbolism
yeah. It's the
coming from
pattern for
ancient
everything else.
cultures or coming from ancient traditions like we do.
Yeah,
And it yeah, I mean, it still looks bad that he's being led around the nose by Netanyahu. That's not a good look.
mm-mm.
But I think even here he's given Netanyahu a lot of rope to hang himself. Um, I know that even in Israel, they're concerned about their long-term viability as a state. And, you know, well,
They should be.
APAC or the Zionist lobby is very powerful. but I think they're at the apex of their power in the United States. I really do.
Yeah.
I think they've got no place to go but down.
Yeah. I've seen Marjorie Taylor Greene,
Yeah.
some other people getting out
Yeah.
front on that, and I think they're definitely big cracks in the dam.
Oh, yeah.
Uh, you can see, and
Yeah.
I think he needs the neocons to a certain extent, but I think he's trying to reason with them in another way and say, look, all this stuff, I can make it look good for you so you can go home and you can, beat the war drums and whatever you want to.
Mhm.
But you got to be realistic. I mean, you don't want everything to blow up because you can't make money that way. so,
Yeah.
uh, so,
Yeah. Well, they started out as disciples of Trotsky 100 years ago,
yeah,
and their Trotskys, as well as their MO, is that we have to keep on fighting the international revolution, and eventually we're going to win. And if we don't win at this particular battle, let's say Spain during the Spanish Civil War, or in Hungary, or in Mexico during the Mexican Revolution, they or Iraq. It's just because we didn't spend enough, you see,
yeah,
and they are delusional in this sense. So I
yeah,
don't know if reasoning is available to Trump or
mm,
anybody to reason with them. Um, they just have to be defeated.
yeah,
And, it's sad because I do like to think that all people at heart, at base, are reasonable and you can reason with people. But the neocons and the Trotskyites have never given me any reason to believe otherwise. But defeat them, know, just
Well, it's
whatever. I mean,
yeah, we got a lot of enemy. I don't want to go into that on this. I was going to say the church has two main enemies right now, and I
hmm
think that's true. But um, when we're talking about the neocons, yeah, ultimately, you're right that what is it? Alexander McCurr says they don't have any reverse gear.
no,
They uh, they believe in it like a religion, and
yeah,
unfortunately, their religion is noxious to the rest of the world.
it is. It is, and you know, uh, I mean, they've turned Israel into a pariah state,
Mm,
and they have turned. They've raised. I'm going to be careful how I say this, but they've made the um, tenability or the viability of the Jewish diaspora to be very untenable. I mean, it's there's more anti-Semitism now thanks to their ideology, which Netanyahu thought in 2 months it'll be done. Okay,
yeah,
but because they have no reverse gear, because they just have to go for it, and we're going to back them up regardless. It's just made things very, very hot worldwide for Jewish communities. And as far as Israel is concerned, I mean, the whole raison d'être for Israel was to be a safe haven for Jews to just make aliyah and go directly to Israel if they're threatened in Morocco or France or wherever.
mm,
And now that's not true anymore. So something's got to give. Somebody's got to put on that side the thinking cap and say, look, let's pull back our horns. Let's get out of the Ukraine. Um, I don't know.
yeah. Uh, you can see that they're heading towards um, ignominious end.
Yeah.
It's just a
Yeah.
matter of time as
It
far as
is.
I'm concerned. Well, how's it look to you? You think we're good
Yeah, looks good.
this evening?
Yeah.
Okay.